Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm so glad you're able to join us today for another episode of WellDoctors.us Live. How are
Hey,
you today?
I'm great. How you doing yourself?
I'm doing great. It's kind of gloomy here in Southern California, but it's a good day.
Yeah, well, it looks like we are getting sunshine, but it's cold still. Well, again, everybody will say they'll throw things at me and go, it's not cold when it's in its mid to high 60s. I'm still aiming for about 75, and then I'll stop saying it's cold.
Right. I mean, we get spoiled with the weather here in California, so a little bit colder, we can tolerate it. um, All right. Well, I'm Dr. Andrea Lee, and along with me is Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, your guide through the world of personal finance. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out your financial journey, we are here to empower you with practical tips. And hopefully, with the information, you can make a more informed decision to meet your financial goals.
Absolutely. Well, today we have an amazing topic. To me, I think all of our topics are amazing. Maybe I'm a little biased, but families find themselves faced with risk. Life is filled with the possibility of risk. And oftentimes people are not prepared because they
Right.
sort of feel like they can plan for risk or accidents or emergencies. But unfortunately, many of these things are unforeseen. So I think our topic today will be really both informative and helpful for folks wanting to prepare, because there are some ways that you can actually prepare.
Yes, I mean, it is an exciting topic, risk mitigation and family financial planning. At time we're so busy working hard and creating wealth, but we don't put much time into or thought into safeguarding or preserving your wealth that you created. So there are strategies that you can incorporate into financial planning to reduce the risk and also maximize your wealth potential. So, financial planning is an ongoing process. So, significant events such as getting married, buying a house, having kids, or getting very sick, or unfortunately, getting a divorce. All of these events can affect your financial goals and objectives. So, it's important you review your plan and reassess on a regular basis to have all those priorities covered.
Absolutely. Sometimes it can be something as simple as, and it depends upon where you are along your journey. Although people, they say, have been waiting later to begin to set up their households just as a response to the cost of living. Things like, you go to school. There was a statistic that I heard recently about the number of people that graduated in the last couple of years following COVID in particular. And with the uncertainty in the economy, you may have graduated with a, undergrad, advanced level degree, but found that there wasn't as many opportunities to enter into the job market at a level that may be sufficient to not only cover your living expenses, but if it is that have student loan debt, which many people do, to be able to support that student loan debt as well. And so that becomes a bit of a burden if it is that, you've gone to school and you've earned a degree and you have debt. So if your income is not what you anticipated it would be, how then do you cover your household and living expenses? That then leads to, sadly, for some cases, significant debt. So how do you work yourself out of a debt plan? And lo and behold, don't have a job loss or a medical emergency. Those tend to be, along with things like sudden death. I've heard of people, and it happened often, where there's a death in the family. It's a major contributor to the household income.
Right.
And all of those things are disruptions and can really create not only the emotional trauma that the family is dealing with, but also the financial burdens that continue to mount in those situations.
Absolutely. I mean, reassessing your risk regularly, especially evaluate your financial liabilities, such as loans like auto loans, credit card balances, mortgages, personal loans, and there's bad debts and good debts too, right? So those are the things that you want to reassess to align your financial objectives and goals, especially with the market fluctuation and first personal goals and life event changing can impact your financial objectives and goals. So it's important that you regularly reassess all of these components as the times goes on and you encounter a major events in the family. Limit You want to limit those liabilities and also legal liabilities that not a lot of people think about. So especially personal liabilities insurance, to have like an umbrella insurance on top of your auto loan, auto insurance, or your mortgage insurance. Those can help to protect you in an event that it happened to you, like a car accident. When you have a minimum coverage, they can sue you, and you could have force you to tap into your home equity to pay for those liabilities, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of times that's one of those things that people don't think about. You're trying to save money on the front end and pay for a minimal amount of coverage. But if you have assets, that's not a wise decision, because unfortunately those assets are at risk for the shortfall. And a lot of times that's something as simple as that, people don't consider.
Yeah, I mean, you expose yourself with all these risks. Every day we encounter things that we don't expect, like big medical expenses, getting very, very sick, then you no longer can work. How do you replace your income? How do you ensure your family will have enough income to cover all the expenses, loans, bills, and all of that, if you no longer can work due to major medical event like chronic care or long-term care, right? So then you need to have some sort of income replacement. And there are strategies like life insurance policy nowadays that help you able to leverage that to pay to access the money to pay for your chronic long-term chronic care, medical like terminal illness and critical illness. You can access the debt benefit early to pay for those events, and also income replacement too. So it's important that you consider the income replacement when you no longer can able to support your family, who especially you are the main income earner of the family or the breadwinner.
Yeah, it's really again, and sometimes it's chronic conditions. I just had a real dear friend of mine share the passing of his sister, and she was a contributor to the household income, but she leaves behind three children, three minor children, and a husband. And so just think about, even though the husband has a means for income, just the emotional trauma experienced through the chronic condition she suffered from, breast cancer. So that was a long-term, illness. So think of how much the disruption to the family emotionally, is she going to be okay? Is she going to recover? All of that, the mounting medical bills, and then to now have this person, unfortunately, transition, then the void of that contribution to the household. And again, these things are happening more and more. Sadly, we find ourselves with a population of citizens who sadly have suffered from environmental, we won't talk about, the food and all the other things that have contributed to overall conditions that seem to be on the growth cycle. I'm seeing
Right.
younger and younger cases of early dementia and Alzheimer's, which is basically type 3 diabetes, sugar on the brain. I'm seeing cases as young as 30, 35. I was appalled to see that statistic, because when you think about chronic conditions like an Alzheimer's or a dementia, typically when they are prognosis received by older patients, although the brain begins to deteriorate, oftentimes, if there's not other conditions, a person can live for a long time with that type of chronic condition. So imagine if you're 30 years younger, at least if you have the experience in your 60s, the presumption is that you've worked a full career, you would have saved something for retirement, perhaps you have some other assets and resources. But if
Right.
this happens at 30, and you just finished
That's a
college
long time.
at
Yes.
27, 28, maybe 30, just got your career started. You're just getting your career started in many cases. So you would not have saved that amount of resources. And literally, you could be in need of care for now 30 plus years. We really need to look and explore other options just in case, to prepare. You don't want to feel like we're not meaning to, make it doom and gloom, but we're just
Right.
saying that we see the realities. And it's tragic when you see a family suffer through something when dang it, there were some additional resources that if only they had those things, considered in their financial, or you say their wellness plan, because it is about a holistic approach to your longevity, right? Your
Right.
economic stability, your emotional stability, all of those factors work together to ensure your journey will be, what it is, but hopefully better. Right. Right.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's important. Yeah, like again, I mean, everything you said makes total sense how we plan our family in financial goals and objectives, because it's important to consider that you have enough savings for emergency funds for unexpected expenses, getting very sick, or you wanted to take a vacation that was not planned for. So you want to have enough money for those kind of events, and to have enough money in events of untimely death or getting very, very sick. Nowadays, a lot of insurance company are offering plan that you can access those living benefits, and they're very good. Chronic illness, terminal illness, critical illness, you can access the money to pay for, in an events that you didn't plan for. And also, how much insurance do you really need? I think it's a good rule in general is about 10 times of your income, your annual income. So let's say if you make 100,000, you want to plan for at least $1 million in your insurance to adequately cover for your needs. And also, if you have children, you want to add 100,000 for each child. So two children, that's 200,000 to cover for educational expenses. A little bit extra to have everything covered in case if something happened. You have a safety net to provide for your family.
Yeah, and it would seem it would be important to factor in inflation as well, right? So you want to think about
Absolutely.
not
Yes.
only the value of those dollars today, but what will the value of those dollars be, 10, 20, 30 years in the future. And that's why it's important to evaluate. You don't just sort of do it once and you're done. If you
Right.
have policies or plans in place, you need to evaluate those plans and see if there are adjustments that should be made. Are there increases that are necessary because of the inflation and what those dollars actually become in a future? Were those plans set up where they are tax favored or they're tax disadvantaged? Is there going to be a tax consequence when you access those resources? Those are the kinds of things that you want to keep in mind, which is why it's so important to be aware of. It's the same thing that I keep saying with this holistic approach to your well-being. You want to check in on a regular basis, just like if you have a vehicle, that vehicle requires maintenance. If you just drive it, put gas in it, if you never check the oil, if you never check the tires, if you never check to see if there's maintenance concerns within the vehicle, chances are that vehicle not going to last as long as it could, because you're going to be missing elements to ensure its longevity. You will have missed sort of course correction opportunities. And it should be the same thing about your well-being, your strategies for ensuring that your family and you are taking care of your household, your immediate family. What type of legacy are you planning to leave? Yeah. So all of these things are things that you should factor in and keep up to date.
Right. I mean, I've seen in a situation when people think they have adequate insurance, but in reality, they're not. A lot of people are underinsured, are not having enough insurance to cover when something happened in the family. I've seen families that having just term policy term policy insurance. Term is good when you have nothing. That helps you to cover, especially it's good for 10, 20, or 30 years. But on average, term insurance is expired by the time you really need it. So it's important that you want to set up a permanent life insurance that helps to protect you for the full life. And you want to have the benefits of, like, the living benefits, the supplemental income for retirement, access that money tax-free. And also the death benefit is going to be tax-free when something happened to you or you passed on and leave that money behind. So the tax consequences is very important. And also, when you mentioned about inflation, a lot of people think they set up a plan 10, 15 years ago. That plan may not be sufficient enough for today because of inflation. On average, inflation we account by 2.5%, 3%. But in reality, it's more than that, right? I mean, we feel like when you go out to a restaurant right now, whatever you pay right now is almost double compared to before the pandemic, isn't it?
Absolutely. The prices have gone through the roof. I see it everywhere. I was stunned, just so-called the fast casual, you go out for a fast casual meal and it's 30, 40 bucks just for, basic things that you say, wait a second, how is it that that's a 40-buck meal? When, at best, it was 15, maybe 20 bucks,
Right.
but you see the increase in costs. And just to pick up on something that you were mentioning about the importance of transitioning from term to permanent, because in some of these cases, you still need to health qualify. You want to consider the transition to your permanent policy while you are in your best health
How?
possible, because
Right.
that is going to contribute to the cost of the policy, as it relates to the policy that's based upon your life. And so, again, I know I've mentioned this in prior segments, the importance of not only you health qualifying as early as you can, but also for your children as well, while they are healthy and in their, best condition is the best time to qualify for permanent type policies, so that the insurance portion of the policy is at a lower rate.
Right. And remember, for insurance, you cannot get it when you need it, right?
Isn't
So
that
you
true?
have to plan in advance. And I've seen a lot of people would say, "Oh, I would buy insurance, and term is all I need because my children probably need that money if I'm was something to happen to me. But by the time I'm retired, I don't really need that insurance anymore because my house is paid off. I don't have that much liabilities. I have retirement accounts. I have money saved up. I have Social Security. I don't need insurance anymore." But in reality, when the time that you retire at a 60, 65 or older, you may not have those liabilities, but the medical expenses can be astronomical. And that could wipe out your entire saving and just get hit with one major medical condition.
Absolutely.
Right.
The medical expenses seem to be, when we look back and say, what are some of the things that contribute to a house sort of crumbling? Oftentimes, it's a tragic, chronic, sudden medical condition that disrupts the stability of, a family's earnings and economic stability, and that then condition now is an existing condition, which then in some cases makes it difficult or impossible. Well, I guess I won't say impossible, but sometimes the cost of a premium when you have a pre-existing condition
It can be much higher.
can be
Yeah.
much higher. It's substantial. Yeah.
And the long-term care portion too, because when you get older, when you have a medical conditions and you need long-term care help, well, the cost can be varies based on the location, the factor of location, or type of cares or individual needs. So let's say if you need assisted living, that could be anywhere, could be $4,000 or $5,000 a month easily. And for nursing home care, 7,000-9,000 a month.
Are you kidding me? I was doing a pro forma for our special memory care approach. We were looking to launch a facility in California and using our overall holistic care, especially for those with early sudden dementia stuff. We have, a protocol that we think would be really impactful. And really the cost was 15,000 a month per bed.
Right.
And there's like a year waiting list.
Right.
So, and many of these facilities, there's very few, but again, 15,000 a month a bed.
So they say it ranging anywhere from 9 to 15,000 per month.
Yeah.
And your life insurance policy, it has a chronic long-term care, chronic care that help to provide that. So that this is similar to the long-term care that help to take care of that portion if should you need some help at home when you no longer can feed yourself, bathe yourself, transferring, going somewhere that you need someone to help you, you can access that money. Of course, you have to be qualified to access the money, but it's there to help you in case of an event like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, each week when we come together, we have these conversations and we're sharing information, not only from our personal journeys and experiences, but we often are out here, I'm dealing with entrepreneurs and business owners every day. And it's such a challenge, especially when you're creating what you hope to be sustainable income, preparing for succession plans. We spend a lot of times, I say people spend more time planning their personal, birthday parties or family events. Then they invest oftentimes in planning their family life plan, a family business plan. How do we plan to make sure that our family is strong and secure? What are the proper ways if there are assets that need to be transferred between generations? How do we do these things? And trust me, in advance planning is always better than under duress following some type of tragedy. Because oftentimes, again, you have emotions and other factors that are weighing in. And you also have a lack of sometimes understanding. People need to come together and clarify what they understand about this process of planning. Oftentimes, family members lack, not only family members, but, the public in general, the vocabulary to, so many terms. I hear people talk about things and they're so misused. It's like, no, that does not mean that. It's like, first of all, in every sector, there is a particular vocabulary. And oftentimes, if it's not your area of profession, you would not necessarily have the vocabulary. It's not expected that you would, but you do need to identify a group of trusted professionals, your bench, who's able to, weigh in and recognize, again, in the case of things like memory care, as a person faces those types of conditions, the memory is playing tricks. So sometimes, a person is saying one thing and meaning another thing, but if you're not aware of what memory care or memory deterioration looks like, it can be a shocking experience. I know in my own personal family, it was very difficult to understand as someone began to lose their mind, because they had part of it over here that seemed to be accurate, but then the short-term memory was completely, off base. So all of those things factor in to the importance of making these plans as early as you can and updating them.
Exactly. And also, talk to a professional that can help you with these process, because a lot of time we don't know what we don't know. And you may not asking the right question to benefit you. So, let's transition to the estate planning part. You want to have a comprehensive estate plan that include wills, trusts, powers of attorney. So in case of a debt in the family, you want to avoid probate court. That's an ugly battle to go through. High fees. You don't want to leave, everything to the court to decide who, what asset go to who, and they will make decision for that. So in advance, you can create a trust for that. You can control your inheritance and determine who inherits what, and also guardianship for your children as well. So you want to plan all of those in advance. Also, tax deduction. There's ways that you can, you have a sizable asset, you want to leave that to your children. There are ways that, help to minimize the tax when you pass on for generational wealth transfer. And as well as the family, avoiding family strife, right? You don't want, battles within the family when you're no longer there to provide them. So it's something, you want to have a clear instructions to avoid any confusion or disagreements within the family.
And I think that that's also critical. It's so important to have these conversations, because oftentimes these things are not communicated, especially when the matriarch or patriarch is alive. And so, unfortunately, it's all left to interpretation. And I see so many families in strife. And it's really tragic, because you're right. The
It is.
courts and the legal system will make the legal decisions, and oftentimes they're not at the best
That
of
may not to your
family.
best interest,
They're
right?
not to
If
your
you
best.
don't make the decision, yeah, the court would take over and make the decision for themselves, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and therefore take out their portion, as well as, additional costs for legal fees, court fees, attorney fees, a bunch of excess fees. And by the time you figure it out, and then of course when people contest, decisions that have been made, it's just really a mess, and trying to mitigate some of that, disruption is best done by having early conversations and planning. It's the best way forward.
Right. I mean, it may be hard to sit down and really organize and plan in advance, but once you have that set up, you gain a peace of mind, and just modify that plan along the way to fit your life-changing events, like married, having kids, and kids going to college, buying a house, getting additional protections, uh, or going through medical expenses that require you to pay high deductible. So and that's what lead us to health insurance and disability insurance. So a lot of people think, the health plan that they have may cover everything, but it's not. Um, you have deductibles that you have to meet, and it may cover the hospital portion or the pharmacy portion, but when you hit long-term care or chronic long-term care, your health insurance does not cover that.
And
Um,
that's oftentimes where people have, unfortunately, a shocking wake-up call, is that the healthcare does not cover the long-term care or some of those additional
right,
services that you need. And so, their plan was that they were covered, but unfortunately they realized that no, this coverage ends at this point. Now, what do you have next to take over? And oftentimes there's no next.
right. Another plan that I have seen a lot of people now are start doing more is health saving account, the HSA, health saving account. What's the difference between 401k and the HSA account? Now, for this year, 2024, for individuals, you can contribute up to $4,150 to their HSA accounts. And for a family, you can contribute up to 8,300 pre-tax dollar into your account. And you can use that for medical expenses or paying for prescriptions, or dentist costs or optometry costs for qualified expenses, of course. But when you invest, they do give you the option to invest that money and gaining interest over the years. So if you contribute into a plan HSA and it grows until age 65, you can, after age 65, you can access that money as a retirement income as well.
Instead of excellent.
Instead of just for medical qualified expenses.
That's excellent. I think that's a great option. I love policies that allow you some type of flexibility where, although you may set the funds aside for a particular purpose, if you're blessed and that purpose does not manifest, you still have access to those resources. There's some other programs that end up being a little bit more restrictive, where they're only used for a particular purpose. And it's if you don't have that situation, you also still can't access those funds. So this would be a great alternative, and there might be some more alternatives. I think it's important to make sure that you not only have your plans evaluated, but in some cases, consider speaking to more than one professional just so that you can explore a number of options.
Right. It's, especially the 401k plan. A lot of people just think 401k plan is the best plan out there because that's all they know. That's all I knew back then. I thought 401k was the best plan. I maxed out my 401k because I didn't know any other plan beside the stocks and bonds. So it's important that you diversify out your portfolio: stock, bonds, 401k, retirement income. The insurance part of it is also, you want to incorporate all of that into your portfolio to have a balanced, well protected plan. Another thing is you wanted to have a plan that you can access that money tax-free down the road, so you don't have to pay tax. The 401k, when you access that money or RMD at age 73, you have to pay tax. And there is provisional income that you have to consider. So your tax bracket might shoot up a lot higher, especially if you have $1 million or more in your 401k and your RMD that amount. And that could be, and especially if you're still working at that age, your income bracket can be a lot higher and your tax bracket can be a lot higher too.
Absolutely. Well, it happens every week. Andrea, we are at the top of our time. This topic, as well as many of our other topics, are topics that we care about. So I find that we get really caught up in the conversation, and before we know it, our window has blown by. Are there any last tips that you want to share in terms of ways that families can mitigate their risk?
So, every family situation is unique. So to tailor strategies that fit your specific needs and goals, talk to someone, with knowledge, professionals, so they can help you with this process. And it can be, it doesn't have to be, it could be a friends that have a license to do so, or your tax advisor or your financial advisor. Talk to someone, get yourself protected, get your family protected. If you don't have anyone, reach out to us. We can guide you through this process, and to make sure that you get all the protection you need, and continue this financial journey in your family and provide a safety net for your family. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. We are running out of time. And as always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We invite you to join us weekly. Until then, prioritize your well-being and your loved ones by developing a plan to safeguard yourself and your family. And if you already have a plan, we suggest review it, update it to optimize its effectiveness. And if there's a topic that you're interested to learn, please let us know. You can email us at info@welldoctors.us live. I'm sorry, welldoctors.us. Have the most wonderful day.
Fantastic. And looks like we received a comment from John Steele telling us thank you for sharing. So I wanted to make sure that we made mention to John. Thank you, John. Thank you for
Thank
your
you, John.
comment. We appreciate it. And yes, everyone, be well. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.